Welcome back to the Mortgage Athletes. My guest and, of course, my co-host here, Tom Reber, but we have a special guest here today, as Tom and I have been wanting to get an insurance expert in the house to talk about what's going on with Florida insurance, what are the challenges, and especially for our realtor referral partners and loan officers alike, because it's costing some deals or having to rewire deals basically to work because of insurance coming in. So we have Kimberlee Stuart with Goosehead Insurance. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Let's get a quick bio, though, on you, Kim, just so those who may not know you. You just mentioned you've been in the insurance industry for 18 years. Mm-hmm. Wow. And then it's been 2 years now you've had your own Goosehead office.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, 2 years with my own insurance agency, many years on the company side, and also as an agent prior to that.
Excellent. What now? Have you always been? Well, of course, in the loan officer world, we call it originating. But have you always been originating, or what kind of other aspects of the insurance process have you been involved in?
So I started my career as a captive agent with Liberty Mutual Insurance. So captive agent means you only represent that one company. Did that for 4 years before moving over to the insurance company side in the marketing department. So I worked for a couple of different insurance companies, a auto insurance company, and then I moved over for the last 8 years to a homeowners insurance company. Mm-hmm. And that's really where I got familiar with what was going on with the homeowners insurance market in Florida. Decided, after doing, working for other people for many, many years, that it was time for me to branch out and open my own agency. I knew it was a challenging marketplace, but boy, was I in for a surprise. Things got crazy real quickly. Yeah. So the last 2 years have been, trial by fire, really getting thrown into things and figuring out how to get creative sometimes with, especially with my referral partners, and making sure that they can find insurance for their clients.
The insurance, really, when did we start seeing these price increases? Like we were talking pre-show, I was doing the new construction. We'd just throw $100 in there for insurance, and that would, especially on a new construction home, that would pretty much cover it. But what do you feel? What do you know from knowledge? Maybe you can explain it to everyone in a nutshell. What's causing this? It's not just a gradual spike; it was a spike. In insurance costs.
Yeah, we saw the last 2 years we've seen significant rate increases, and there are several factors that tie into that. One that a lot of people don't realize, so insurance companies buy something called reinsurance. Yep. Reinsurance is essentially insurance for the insurance company. An insurance company has to buy reinsurance because if there was a catastrophic event like a significant hurricane, that could take them out of business.
Right.
So they have their reinsurance partners, and they have a level, they have a deductible essentially, just like we all do on our policies. And that's what the insurance company is responsible for, before the reinsurance company covers the rest. Mm-hmm. So reinsurance costs have increased. So that's one component that's leading to higher rates for all of us. The other is the litigation in Florida. So Florida has more attorneys than any other state. They have to make a living somehow. So some of them, not to pick on them, I love my attorney friends.
Stop. Let's go.
But, some of them have found that a good way to make money is off of suing insurance companies. And so there's been an increase in litigation, and that drives up the cost of insurance to the consumer. So, you've got those
Am I
two.
mistaken, and this is just, hearsay on the street, and you can clarify or not, that in Tallahassee has not put in the right measures, legislation to keep this under control. They need to get in front of this a little bit to start tampering this down.
So there has been legislation passed the last 2 years that has been friendly to insurance companies. Mm-hmm. They needed some legislation passed in order to try and kind of put a damper on some of these issues. And so that's good. I mean, that in turn will eventually help to lower those homeowners insurance rates. But it takes time for that to work its way through. So the insurance company has to make a profit, and we've seen them unprofitable for the last 3 years for most homeowners insurance companies. Once they return to profitability, then they start to lower rates. And so that's kind of, we're right at the cusp of that.
And having a year, I think we had the one storm in the Panhandle this year, right? That's it. So this was a good year.
One significant storm, and I'll jump in here on that because what we've seen probably, obviously the tax bills came out last year, were paid, and a lot of the annual premiums were came out, and there's a lot of people with their heads spinning off their shoulders. Congratulations, welcome to 2024. And oh, by the way, not only did your tax bill go up significantly because you bought a house in 2020 and 2021, your insurance went up significantly because, to your point, it's been chaos for the past basically 18 to 24 months, especially with escalations. I had a couple customers, one of them called me yesterday and said, hey, I've got a problem. I'm like, well, tell me more about what you got going on. My tax bill obviously is assessed at $100,000, and I came from another part of the country, and I moved here. Now my assessment is $356, significant tax increase. My insurance bill, my annual premium was up $1,800. Now it's $4,000. They just had almost a $500 a month increase in payment, and their heads went spun around.
Yeah.
What did I just jump into? And but I've seen this happen multiple times. I'm the MBF Jacksonville president, and I work with the state of Florida with the Mortgage Bankers Association, and this is a problem. And so you have a lot of people that bought houses in the past year and a half to 2 years that are saying, I don't know if I can make the payment anymore. And you're having some of those challenges. And so we're kind of raising our hand from an MBA perspective saying, hey, what qualified? We already have challenging problems with rates. Rates are starting to come down a little bit, but now we have the other side.
Not to overcome that kind of.
Yeah, so you have a whipsaw with people who already have houses that their payments gone up like $500. And they're like, well, I was able to make my $2,500 a month payment. Now my payment's over $3,000. And my income hasn't caught up with that. But these are factors. So we have a tsunami of issues happening at the same time. And this is definitely what I call the washing machine effect. 1 minute you think you got where you need to be, and then the next minute you're over here going, oh, well, I've got this challenge. So affordability is still a problem going forward, and working with you, Kimberlee, and others to find solutions is paramount for not only Duval County and the surrounding area, but for the state of Florida. A big challenge. But the good news is this type of collaboration brings it to light. It also enables us to provide qualified feedback and information to our customers with insurance policies, with affordability on how to finance a home. But to Tracy's point he made it a minute ago, it's no longer you can say, hey, it's a brand new house, your payment's going to be X and this is Y, and your insurance policy is going to be
we were within like $20 a month or something.
Your policy is going to be $1,400, no problem. Not the case. So all of a sudden now, you as a mortgage professional and an insurance professional, you have to be a little bit more detailed because and now, like I said, unintended consequences and blowback we're dealing with on current homeowners. Future homeowners are going, eyes are wide open, going, well, heck, I just came from Kansas City. We don't have these problems. And so my insurance policy there was $800 a year, and I had all the coverages on the planet. Now this is $5,000 in the state of Florida,
Right, with a lot of exclusions.
with a lot of exclusions.
Right.
So we're glad to have you on the show. Number one,
Yeah.
We tip our cap to the collaboration with you and helping us in our industry. So with that being said, what's your thoughts on how we get to the next step?
Yeah, so, to your customer that experienced that, increase and gets that shortage letter from their mortgage company saying, hey, your escrow account is short.
Yeah.
You can either make this payment. By the way, we just got ours.
Oh,
So, yes, I am
You're riding the
living
ride.
that.
So you don't
I
have
am
wholesale
living that.
rates over there?
I wish I had some special rates, but I don't. So, the best thing to do in that type of circumstance is to reach out to your current insurance agent and say, hey, I got my renewal. It went up a lot. What can we do? There may be some opportunity to look at moving the policy to another company. And that's really the importance of working with an independent broker because we've got multiple options. If you are not working with an independent broker, find one. So they'll shop the market. They'll find the best option for you. Hopefully they can find a policy that will go back to close to what you were paying.
Kim, you brought up a great point there, and I probably have received 10 phone calls since New Year. Here we are, first week of January. I've gotten 10 phone calls with people. 8 of the 10 we've been able to reduce significantly. One went from a policy of $1,800 to literally almost $5,000. they were able to kind of get to 2,600. But they did that. They, my initial response is like you said, which I think is very powerful information. Immediately call your insurance agent and see what they can do. If they're a single agent carrier, you have a problem. You need to look outside your box. And hence Kimberlee's here today.
Well, I got a question with that and Lori, and well, two questions. One, are you actively doing it as an agent? Is that something you do to you have an ability to run so you can be proactive so you're not losing that client? You might call another agent altogether. That would be number one. But is there some tips and tricks, like in car insurance, you increase your deductible just a couple $100 can save you a tremendous amount of money.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as far as renewals, yes, I do keep an eye on them. Now, as an insurance agent, there are two things, we have to kind of weigh the options because depending on the age of the home, there could likely be another inspection required, a new floor-point inspection. And the home is 1 year older than it was last year, or 2 years older than 2 years before. And so there could potentially be issues with the condition of the roof that, it doesn't make sense to move the policy to another company. We don't want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah.
So, when we're looking at these renewal offers, we have to kind of, keep that in mind that, hey, it's not just about finding the cheapest rate. Is it going to make it through the underwriting period with a new company? And so that's obviously very important right now, especially with insurance companies being very stringent on roof age and roof condition. And so,
what's the little tips and tricks? So, like for deductible or anything like that could possibly move the needle.
So I'd say the biggest one is looking at getting a wind mitigation inspection if you have not had one done, especially if you've replaced your roof. It's even more important because there could be discounts that you're missing out on your policy.
That's good.
So we just replaced our roof in the last year. It would be important to also have someone come out and submit that mitigation for us as well as obviously having the new roof.
Yes, let your insurance agent know, not only did I replace my roof, but here's the wind mitigation inspection. Some roofing companies will automatically do that wind mitigation inspection when they replace the roof. That's even better. It saves you a little bit of money. It's not an expensive inspection to get done, usually in the $100 range, and it can save you thousands.
Yeah, no doubt.
So very, very important to have that. And then, next we can look at the policy and look at, deductibles. One of the big things I've seen with some of the insurance companies, so all of them have an inflation guard built into the policy, where the
that was a question I had. It was how has inflation affected this?
Yes. So they want to make sure that the coverage on the policy is keeping up with inflation. And some of those inflation guards have been pretty heavy. And a lot of times when I look at, is that truly still the replacement cost of the house? It's a little overinflated. So, that's something I always review first. Did the coverage increase $100,000 between last year and this year? Did it really need to increase that much? Cost of building materials has gone up, but it hasn't gone up that much. And so sometimes we can tweak that and put that back down to a level that's more reasonable. Yeah.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh boy.
BlackRock and the other couple of things that basically own most of the world are big climate change advocates. How have they? I believe they're punishing Florida, but that's my personal opinion. If you don't want to answer that question, you're welcome not to. But that is just mine.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah. Let's think. So Tom and I referral partners. I was talking about Sophie Gordon. How she actually calls her insurance agent before she goes out and shows the house. What have you seen in the last 18 months? Have we seen these rates increases? And you've been involved in deals which probably have gone sideways. Tom and I both, all of a sudden the insurance comes in and we're like, oh my goodness. Hey, we need to go get maybe the wind mitigation saves it, maybe. But what would you, if you're talking to, a group of agents right now, what they should be doing to put their buyers in a better position, or sellers, so that the buyer isn't, thrown off tracks and decides not to buy the home. We don't want that to happen either. But how should they be educating their buyers and sellers as far as insurance? And then how can they utilize you as a resource?
Yeah, so as far as the education piece, I think it's important to start the process early. So if you're representing the buyer, and they're looking at, an offer on a house, tell them to start working on getting insurance quotes. They don't want to wait until the last minute where they're scrambling. especially if there's going to be, if it's an older home, there may need to be repairs made to the property after the 4-point inspection is done. And so the sooner we can start that process and say, hey, here are the issues from an insurance standpoint that are going to need to be corrected, then we're not having issues with the closing potentially being delayed because of that.
Right.
I did get a call recently from a real estate agent asking me for advice on how she was listing. It was an older home, and she said, what issues are we going to run into once we have a seller? And so I thought that was really, really smart of her to do.
Yeah.
And I was able to look at it and say, okay, the roof's going to be a problem. The age of the roof, the condition of the roof, let the seller know there's potentially going to be a problem.
We talked about pre-show, some of the information that you can gather. Tell us a little bit about like the permits and stuff. What's your software or whatever? You can get on your computer and find out a lot. What can you find out about a home?
Yeah, so I can find out about permits. So I can find out, when was the roof last replaced, if a permit was pulled, water heater age. Again,
how do you find that out?
So I have a database I use, a vendor that I'm able to pull.
The water heater, do they have to get a permit for the water heater?
Not always. Most people don't because they do it themselves. But if they're doing other plumbing repairs, then sometimes.
So the plumber has to record it with the county that they replaced it?
Well, they don't. If they hire a plumber to do other plumbing repairs, then it'll often be.
Can you look it up by serial number on the water heater?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, as far as the age of the water heater, most of them have a sticker. A sticker or a plate that shows the age. So that's one thing we can look at.
5 years ago, you weren't talking about water heaters like this.
No.
I'm so sorry. Can you tell me the age of your water heater? I can't buy that house because that water heater is 15 years old. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew that was going to be a discriminating point of a home purchase.
What is the? We know the roofs of a lot of insurance companies gone down to like 10 years, right? You go over 10 years, and all of a sudden your pool of insurance companies that you can shop with goes down, and it gradually goes down higher.
Right.
What about water heater? What is the time frame on water?
Usually 15 years. 15 years is about the cutoff.
That's
some
your
will go
warranty
up
too,
to
Tracy.
20.
Isn't it 15 years?
Yeah, some do 20, but 15 is kind of
15.
the standard.
Wow.
Yeah.
15's pushing it in this area. You're on the brink. If your water heater isn't busted in 15 years, you're any day.
Yeah.
What do you think about the tankless water heaters?
I mean, I personally like them.
Yeah.
I mean, do they have the same challenge of a 15-year window or?
Companies haven't really differentiated much between them yet. I'm sure that will come at some point. But
well, we talked about this on the last show, the collaborative approach today. If you're not taking a collaborative approach to buy and sell a home, you're not providing the actual influence and value of substance.
Absolutely.
So the thing that I wanted to hammer home on the Mortgage Athlete podcast, because loan officers today, in my opinion, your stock is high as it's ever been. Real estate agents, your stock's high too. You have to own the ability to add the influence and value. Your insurance agent is now stock's really, really high, which is great. So while everybody is woe is me about how the market is and how it's shrinking and all facts, but today of your influence and value is at an all-time high. You bring significant value because it is chaos and you need experts and we need to have the answers appropriately to the quiz. And your agent that called you to do a pre-analysis of their listing is providing the influence and value to that seller of saying, hey, here's your challenges. I've got to earn my fee for service and I'm going to help you understand why. Well, welcome to what we do in 2024 is you've got to dig a little deeper. You've got to earn your fee for service and be a much more detailed forensic player and a collaborative approach between your insurance agent, your mortgage athlete, your real estate athlete, your insurance. All those people have to come together and work together because now you can make the appropriate diagnosis of opportunity.
Well, there's no doubt that for years, the week before closing, go get your insurance.
Oh yeah, days.
Days. And that type of thing. But now, again, after talking to Sophie and stuff, it's just when you sign the contract, or before you even go look at the house, especially if it's an older house, you might want to go and get. But especially when you sign that contract and you're ordering the home inspection, you should already be calling the insurance agent to start doing their due diligence on the other side.
And that's a great point, Tracy. What do you encourage getting the home inspection in your hands to review it?
So I'm not a big fan of looking at the actual home inspection because I can't unsee what I see on there. So it's very detailed. It's a great inspection. Obviously, buyers should always get that done. But from an insurance standpoint, I'm like, just send me the 4-point.
Just give me
send me the 4-point
4-point.
inspection. That's what's required by the insurance company. I don't need to look at the rest.
Gotcha.
And obviously the wind mitigation
Now,
inspection.
explain everyone to the 4-point, because obviously the older homes, I think it was prior to however old, they definitely want a 4-point inspection. They won't do anything because there is an age cutoff there, right?
Yeah, 20 years is really the industry standard.
So a house older than 20 years, which where Tom used to live in St. John's Golf, but he has a new house now. He doesn't.
I'm in a new trailer.
My home's coming up on 20 years. Actually, this year is 20 years. So, the order of 4-point. But even the house that's 10 years old, a lot of these home inspectors will do the 4-point included in their inspection.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, from an insurance standpoint, it won't be required for a 10-year-old house. If it's automatically being included, there's no harm in having it. Those are valid for a year. The wind mitigation inspections are valid for 5 years. So if it's being, thrown in there, great. I mean,
Well, I was thinking, you got a 10-year-old home, and if you're a proactive real estate agent, you're telling the home inspector, or telling them, make sure they give me a 4-point, because there might be something in there, good or bad, might give you a discount on insurance, or might be an insurance issue in the near future that might come up, and it's going to make you look as a better professional. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more information you have about that house that you're purchasing, the better. Not only from an insurance standpoint, but, wouldn't you want to know about any potential issues that your house may have
without
in
a
the
doubt.
future?
Yeah.
It's
get
a
ahead
major
of it if
investment.
you can. Right.
And I think the immediate agent would be worried about, it's going to cost me the deal. They might find out that water heater is a little older or whatever. But, really good agents, when they've got a deal in front of them, they're going to find a way to make that water heater. Maybe they split the cost because the water heater's half the age or whatever. But the reality is, whether you're on the buyer or the seller side, you look more professional because you know everything, all those nooks and crannies about this home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This reminds me of 1992 when we were bringing out home inspectors for the first time, and loan officers and realtors and home inspectors.
Oh my God!
You're killing the deal. You're killing the deal. It's just a crack. But what happened from that, the good that came from 1992, by 1994, we were sort of playing well with each other again, and finding ways to collaborate with the home inspections. We're learning how to do that with insurance people now.
That's
and
right.
we're learning how to do that with the listing agents and things like that, to be proactive, address the significant issues up front. What year of a home would it, in your mind, is it 2006? Is it 2007, 12? In your mind, modern home versus what we classify as an old home?
So I mean, because the 4-point inspections are required for anything over 20 years old, I'd say that's kind of what
Your
I have
window's
in mind.
20?
Yeah, I'd say probably 20 years. That's when we consider it a little bit older. That's not my personal thought. Obviously, when I think of an old home, I think like 1950s.
Yeah, well, I look at it. I used the Hurricane Andrew 2006 deal. The hurricane, the 2006 building code change is kind of, in my opinion. So if it's before 2006, it's considered an old home. After 2006, it's considered current code.
Yeah. 2002 and newer typically qualify for wind mitigation discounts.
Okay.
So that would be
Puts
another.
us right at our 20-year
Yeah.
window.
Yeah.
So I think your rule of thumb is right on.
Yeah.
20 years.
Are there any, so we talked about roofs, we talked about water heaters. What other things cause the insurance companies to have issues? I know there's electrical panels.
Yep.
I can't think of the name that has popped up here and there.
Aluminum wiring.
Oh yes, aluminum wiring. Oh gosh.
What kind of age of home should someone be like flag up that this may have a wiring issue? When were we seeing those, in the 80s or 70s?
Yeah, 70s
Yeah.
typically.
Aluminum was good in the 70s.
Not so much anymore,
No.
but you know that, and then some of the older homes, some of the issues we run into in the Northeast Florida area are the types of plumbing that were used. So galvanized plumbing,
yeah.
polybutylene plumbing. You know, I've insured a lot more mobile homes in the last year than ever before.
Affordability problems.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We
Affordability,
talked about
right?
that. Yeah.
And so with those, there's a lot of polybutylene plumbing in
Yep,
those,
yep.
and that typically, you know, that has to be replaced.
Yeah.
So you know, that would be another thing. But so yeah, plumbing, roof.
The new manufactured homes are fine. Just you're
Yeah,
finding
the
those older ones that
Correct.
have that issue. The cast iron, the ones that I've dealt with, is they went out and did the inspection and realized there's actually a collapse in it. So are they if they find out that there's going out to the street that they want the insurance company will want it replaced, or how do they handle that?
Yeah, so cast iron, you know, as far as eligibility, it's about a 50-50. Some companies take it, some don't. If there's anything unsatisfactory about the plumbing, the electrical, you know, again, going back to that 4-point inspection, plumbing, electrical, heating, and roof, those are the 4 points. Anything that's unsatisfactory, that's going to need to be corrected before the house is insurable. So depending on where the issue is, then that could be.
I don't know if it was you. Someone mentioned the other day that the AC wasn't working and they wouldn't insure the house. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, so again, that would be something.
That's a Florida thing,
probably,
obviously, but yeah.
that would be marked unsatisfactory, likely on the 4-point
You
inspection.
mean you don't want to put a window unit in your bedroom?
Yeah, I mean,
Hey, what's
someone
a
likes
good
to sleep
old-fashioned
when it's
window
90
unit's
degrees
perfect,
and
yeah.
it's humid in August. I don't,
Florida.
My bedroom is 62 degrees. I have a window unit.
yeah, exactly.
So obviously that goes back to kind of the mold issue. So you know, if there's no central air conditioning or no air conditioning,
I've had many a builder say a house is a living organism. And if it's running at 95 degrees or hotter, that house is growing other things.
Yes, yes, definitely.
And so I've heard a lot of that as well. Kimberlee, you've been an absolute treat today. This has been a lot of good stuff.
There's a ton of information here. We'll talk about the mold a little bit.
Let's touch on that.
So they go out and do a home inspection, and maybe they do find, you know, one of the windows was leaking and there's some mold in the side wall, and they're willing to repair. When does it become a point where it becomes where, like, we've got to hire the hazmat team to come in? I mean, how does the insurance company look for verification that someone that was certified to handle that versus, you know, the contractor going in there and just replacing the drywall or whatever that needs to, you know, clean up the studs?
So fortunately, mold claims aren't as prevalent as you might think in Florida. A lot of people get ahead of them, you know, so typically the mold is caused by some type of water intrusion or water leak. A lot of times the water leak is corrected before mold ever has a chance to grow. But let's say it doesn't, or let's say it's inside the walls or somewhere that, you know, is not very viewable.
Noticeable.
Viewable. Professionals should always be involved in mold remediation. So the insurance company, most of them have a, you know, list of vendors that they'll recommend for that mold remediation. And that would need to be completely remediated before the house is insurable. So if somebody's purchasing a home and it's gone through mold remediation, that's fine. You know, it's been remediated, everything's cleaned up, we're good to go. If they're in that process, you know, let's say they list the house for sale, somewhere along the line they find that there's a mold issue, all of that needs to be remediated, the claim needs to be closed before it's insurable.
Before it's insurable again. And then the new insurance company is going to see that. You have access to the previous claims on. How does that affect? Because I know that it's very touchy, all these different things. And my wife goes, if the previous homeowners had claims on that house, that could affect you
Absolutely
moving
does.
forward. How does that?
Absolutely does.
But everything's new. It was replaced. What does the new owner have to worry about?
Blockchain technology.
How does that affect it?
So it depends on the type of claim. That plays a big factor into whether there's going to be an issue. Water claims are really viewed. Yeah, thumbs down. That's perfect. That's a perfect response.
Don't do it.
So, you know, statistically speaking, because this is what insurance companies look at. You know, they're not looking at each individual house and saying, oh, we think that one's going to, you know, statistically speaking, a house that has a water claim is more likely to have another water claim in the future.
Double
Interesting.
Yes. So most of it goes back to, you know, was it a plumbing leak? Was the plumbing replaced? Probably not. So guess what? There's probably going to be another plumbing leak at some
Kimberlee's
point.
no longer a treat.
Well, let me throw this one by. We ended up replacing this refrigerator, but we had a refrigerator, and over time it would eventually build up, and it was, I guess, what was ever supplying the ice maker, right? Whatever, but it would leak a little bit on the floor, and we just replaced it a few months ago. But obviously our concern was, hey, this is how we could come in one day or be gone for a week vacation and come in and the whole kitchen be flooded and we have to replace all the hardwood and everything else, right? So that was obviously a refrigerator, which is taking it out of a house in 15 minutes versus a plumbing. Do they differentiate the claim?
So typically with water claims, insurance companies will have to make an exception to insure the house for the new, the buyer. So they will look at that. They will look and see, okay, was it a plumbing leak versus
a poor homeowner didn't replace the refrigerator when he should have.
Right.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Some of them are willing to make the exception, and then there are others that are saying, they'll stand by their guidelines and say, nope, no prior water claims. We don't care who filed the claim.
So if I'm an agent and I'm going out to look at this house and I call Kimberlee, this house is 10, 15 years old. What can you tell me about it? Find out about the roof. How quickly can you get that information on previous claims and how that may affect the new policy that their buyers can have?
Yeah, so, fairly quickly, within an hour or so, we can run some quotes and pull reports to see if there were prior claims filed. Right. And, hopefully it's something that's already been disclosed because, all you agents out there, you would know that better than I would, but I believe that's something that should be disclosed by the seller.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep. No question.
Is it always? No. And I actually had one recently that the seller did not disclose it. We found that there had been a prior water claim. Fortunately, we were able to get an exception made, but we did have to collect proof of repairs. So I needed photos of all, the repairs that had been made by the seller, as well as the paid invoices.
Cash buyer beware.
Yeah.
So, well, that's an interesting tip right there. So you're a homeowner, might be, all of us who might be listening to this program or homeowners, any of the agents, you have something like that. It might be 5 years before you sell the house, but you want to keep those receipts or photographs of, hopefully the guy who did it is still in business that, they can
definitely
make comment on it.
Yeah. And 5 years is kind of the cutoff with insurance companies. That's how far back they go for.
Okay, that's good to know.
So so you don't need to keep it for eternity, to your point.
Except for your
but
tax
definitely
returns.
for 5 years. There you go. Yeah. So.
Interesting. 5 years. So that's that's something new right there.
That's a big point, right
especially
there.
as tight as insurance gets. 'Cause how much can a previous claim like that affect a new homeowner? 10, 15% more on their policy or something?
Yeah. So it's not going to necessarily make them pay a higher rate. However, it's going to affect their eligibility with companies. So they may end up with a more expensive insurance company because of that prior water claim.
Interesting.
So it can absolutely impact.
What kind of claims really don't affect, like the roof claim?
Yeah, what insurance companies like to call active God losses, which are weather related. So typically a roof claim, because it's wind damage or hail damage or something along those lines.
Interesting. We're at 30 some minutes here, and we try to keep it to 30. You have anything you want to add?
I just thought it was a very wonderful, provocative, inquiring conversation.
Solid 30 minutes.
Solid 30. Solid 30.
Yeah.
And Kimberlee, thank you for being on the show and providing this quality feedback and your experience and background. I think it falls back into the collaborative approach that we have to have.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good team, both buyers and sellers, you're not providing your proper service.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point. Great getting to know you today. Great questions. So I was at a great show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kim, do you want to add anything that we didn't talk about that you think maybe agents should know? Or
I think the biggest thing is, like you said, it's a team approach. This is a challenging market right now that we're in. 2024 is likely going to be another challenging year from an insurance standpoint. We're seeing a little bit of stabilization, which is good. However, I think it's important that you have your resources and you make sure that you're representing your buyer or seller appropriately.
I like it.
Yeah, we get down, sometimes it's $100 that breaks the people. It may not be qualification, it may just be in their mind what their payment might be. And looking at one house versus another to be able to call you, and maybe it is $75 a month difference in the insurance because the house you're looking at.
Right. Oh, yes.
And that sort of thing. And that could be a way to close a deal.
I can tell you from my chair, psychologically, the psychological approach that we have today with home buyers. I had a customer on the phone with me a couple hours ago, said, I want my payment $2,000. I said, I hope you got a large down payment. Or we have to do a total cash flow analysis of what your debt service is. And they're like, oh, I've never done that. Now, the good news is we did that part, which then offset the $2,000 they were accepting to a $2,800 to $3,000, but we're able to fix some things over here on their cash flow to kind of get their mind right. But that's the collaborative approach we have to have.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that,
And
you're not doing
insurance
your
is
job.
just not a plug-in anymore. You need to
Right.
do the due diligence.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
100%.
Well, thank you guys so
Thank
much
you for
for
coming
having
on.
me. It
Cheers.